Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who loves diving into the business of sports, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan, and welcome to episode 341 of Sports Geek, where I dive into the world of sponsorship with Anneliese Mesilati from UBS. You might be listening to this episode on our website, sportsgeekhq.com. You can find all the episodes there, or you might be finding on your favourite podcast platform. That might be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or my fave, Pocket Cast. As always, I love hearing from podcast listeners. You can reach me the old-fashioned way, email sean@sportsgeekhq.com, or on the socials at Sean Callanan, at SportsGeek on most platforms, and yes, at Sean Callanan now on Threads. Who knows where that will end up. Really enjoyed my chat with Anneliese, looking at things from a sponsorship point of view, with her sponsoring properties via UBS, and we look at some of the things from a naming rights, from F1 and the arts. If you're in sponsorship and you're always been on the selling side, and you want a point of view from the sponsor buyers and the people that are looking to sponsor via sport, I think you'll really enjoy this episode. I know I did. Here is my chat with Anneliese Mesilati. She's Head Brand Activation and Sponsorship Americas at UBS. Very happy to welcome Anneliese Mesilati. She's the Head Brand Activation and Sponsorship of the Americas at UBS. Anneliese, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Not a problem. Well, normally what I do is ask people how they got their start in sports. You've been working in the financial sector for a long time, and a few different roles, diving into the world of sponsorship. You want to take us through some of those early sports sponsorship deals that you've done in your career?
Yeah. So I kind of landed in sports marketing as a result of really focusing on branding and brand awareness, and pretty kind of quickly feeling that sport was just a great way to get people's attention and to get our brand out there in front of the right people. So the first sponsorships I actually was involved with was when I was at Saxo Bank, which is a trading firm with, very type A clients that at the time were all jumping on their bikes, jumping in water, getting involved with cycling and triathlon, and thought that there would be, could be some great connections there. So Saxo, which had Danish heritage, was part of the Saxo Tour de France team. And then I also partnered with Alistair Brownlee, who at that point was very young and up and coming and hadn't won anything. Certainly wasn't the kind of the great triathlete that he became.
Yep.
So really looked at that as a way for us to get immediate affinity with our clients. By partnering with these teams and with these individuals, and very much chiming with the approach that traders would have, that kind of very competitive spirit. And, these were teams and people that the traders could aspire to and that they were really, really interested in. So I think that was great. And at the time, Saxo was relatively small financial services firm in comparison to like the bigger institutions that I've worked with. And around 2011, 2012, when I partnered with those organizations, cycling and triathlon was super accessible. There wasn't really very many people. There weren't really very many people in the sport or organizations sponsoring the sport. So that made really great sense for us and enabled us to build this platform, with exactly the right individuals and teams for a, pretty conservative cost to get that brand traction. And I think it worked really, really well for us.
And it was just about like aligning, finding cycling and triathlon, because aligning with, your clients who were starting to be in that activity. So it was sort of a participation profile of your customers and saying, hey, this sport is potentially undervalued or there's some assets there. Was that sort of the main logic? Because you're not being in the financial services sector in the industry that you've been in, you're not in this space of, getting people to walk into a restaurant and buy a burger or selling something from a consumer point of view. It was always about aligning with the businesses that you're doing business with.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that sports have extremely broad appeal, but some sports are very niche. And we had a very niche client base at the time, like these kind of traders, these global markets traders, and a lot of them were jumping on their bikes. They were, they were becoming amateurs. It was a really emerging hobby and kind of sport for them. So for us to align ourselves with those sorts of teams and individuals such as Alistair Brownlee, I think that gave us an immediate affinity with our clients, and they easy to build trust when someone can understand like that's something that they're interested in their personal lives. I think it's a great way to build that kind of trust and awareness with your client base. And again, the way that the sports are approached is very similar to trading in kind of that very highly competitive, fast-paced, dynamic way.
And I mean, I guess there's a lesson there for, rights holders to understand both, what the product they've got, but then also why people are following their sport. What do those people look like? What are the occupations of those people? Why does it make sense? I'm sure, over your years, you go and put marketing and sponsorship in your title, which you've had in a few roles. You would have had a bunch of people pitching and saying, well, you're a sponsor. We need your logo. Put your logo on our thing or slap it here. Like how many of those pitches, hit your desk or hit your inbox over the years where you go, well, it just doesn't match. It doesn't fit. We're not just looking for a logo. There has to be, an alignment of sorts to be able to be effective for us.
Well, absolutely. I've never worked anywhere where it's been a logo slap. So there's always been a way to integrate into those partnerships at a much deeper level. And by the way, my inbox, please no one send me any more emails because my inbox is an absolute disaster. I get way too many emails coming through for different partnerships. And interestingly enough, a lot of people tend to email after you've just announced the deal, which, by the way, salespeople, is the worst time to email anyone when you've just done a big deal.
Well, there's the advice of the episode, because you're right. Like they see the name and they go, oh, they must have more money. It's like, no, we just allocated all our money. That's why we made the announcement.
Exactly. Exactly. Just that there's got to be a cooling off period after you've just done a deal before you're ready to look for the next one. And also you've got to, spend the time to execute that deal once you've signed it. I mean, I think that I mean there are obviously the obvious sports. I mean, I've in my role at RBC had involvement with sponsorships with the PGA. Golf is something that regularly comes up within financial services. But I think when you look at that as well, it's pretty crowded. So then that's you have to look at what value you can get for a sponsorship that's going to be very crowded. But then again, if you get a great event in a great location that's extremely sought over, so you end up with the hospitality part, and then also it's always great when you can get participation as well, when you can get pro-am type events and access to the players. That's always really great. And then one other thing that I've looked at as well, and another area that we've always been involved with is just that mass participation. So it's interesting where I spoke about finding sports where our clients, like these very niche sports where clients are involved in, such as the cycling or triathlon. But there's also a role for, I was involved with RBC Race for the Kids, which was a huge global event that we had where you could walk, run, kids could scooter. And I think that again is really important, where you have these big mass participation events where everyone can get involved, and there's a big fundraising element, and it gets everyone involved in sport. That's important as well, just outside of the elite angle.
Terrific. So I want to look at your role at UBS, and one of the recent big deals that required that calling off period, as we discussed, was UBS Arena, now home of the New York Islanders. I'd love to sort of take a look at that deal and sort of understand what it means to you from a UBS point of view, and what it means to the Islanders, and sort of how that deal came together. Can you share a little bit of that story?
Yeah. So UBS has a real core, one of our core growth markets, and actually somewhere where we're also extremely established, is the US and the Americas region. And I think it was very important for us from a brand awareness perspective. We've got, huge retail presence across Europe. We're on, every high street in a lot of countries in Europe. Whereas in the US, we don't really have that retail banking presence. It was important for us to establish our brand. And New York is the global home for the world's wealth. Most of the world's wealthy individuals have a residence in New York. So for us to kind of really be able to almost like put a flag in the ground in New York was very important. And UBS Arena has enabled us to do that. The anchor tenant is the NHL's New York Islanders, which up until UBS Arena opened in 2021 actually didn't have a home. So for us to be able to partner with the Islanders and provide them with this, fantastic, fabulous new home has been incredible, and has enabled us to start a really lovely journey with the Islanders fans.
And the timeline of that deal, like opening in 2021, stadiums getting built, the Oakview Group are building out, this new teched out stadium, all the latest bells and whistles. What was it like getting that deal announced, and trying to figure out what, how you could leverage, how you could support, how you could find, areas inside that new arena that help elevate the experience for your partners and for the people that, your customers that you want to have that experience at UBS Arena?
Yeah, so we started to look at the deal in 2019, and sat down to look at, what it would mean for us to have this naming rights deal in New York. And then we were going through all of our analysis in late 2019. And then obviously everyone knows what happened in early 2020, and we hit, a global pandemic. And then for us, I think UBS is always, we're a wealth manager, we're a financial services firm. We always look at the long term. We advise our clients to look at the long term. We look at our deals for the in the longer term. And we always felt that the pandemic was going to be a blip. I mean, obviously New York was a disaster. It was just the worst hit, and it was, horrendous. And then that made us want to dig in even more to help support New York at a time when the economy was just completely on its knees. I think New York was one of the worst hit cities in the pandemic. So that for us, to get construction back to work and to get the arena up and built was a huge and important part for us to show UBS's commitment to New York and to the US at the time. And also, we had incredible partners. We have, Oakview Group is, founded by world experts in sports and entertainment and venue construction. and we had absolutely every faith that Oakview were going to pull off a venue that was safe and, fit for the world going forward. And then beyond that, just beyond the pandemic, we have a venue which supports an incredible fan experience. It's got the largest lower bowl. It's got, amazing in-game presentations, sound systems. It has, everything an artist could want for these like state-of-the-art artist compounds, and, not glamorous at all, but loading bay facilities that are now allow artists to come in and out within a few hours, which they can't do anywhere else, which, has a huge impact on the profit for the artists. And then the team itself, the New York Islanders, have an absolutely state-of-the-art changing room and locker room. And actually, interestingly, the locker room isn't just amazing for the home team, it's incredible for the away team as well. And the Oakview and the Islanders will really focus on that. They want everyone to have an incredible experience when they come into the venue. And
again, building through that period, in New York, which, like you said, was devastated, but also it must have been, so many changes that came as a result. New tech, different air filtration, like the standards that were needed for stadiums changed like that, that month. What was okay in 2019, the level had to be changed. And, did you see, like your support of those efforts, those changes as like a key part of your sponsorship to sort of be, hey, we are side by side with the Islanders, with New Yorkers to get this stadium up and operational?
Well, I've actually been up to see the events. I've actually been up behind the scenes to see the air filtration before it got closed in. And by the way, you wouldn't want to go anywhere near it before it got closed in and turned on, because I think you get sucked down things. So it's
sounds like a Die Hard scene.
Exactly. I would never be seen again if I got near it. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think for us to be, there side by side, many conversations with the engineers, many conversations with the developers, and just understanding that, a venue that's completely forward thinking in terms of being contactless and, having that great, the things that the fans will never see, but I've seen it behind the scenes, and it's a really safe and forward thinking experience and venue.
It's a tough one to measure, but I'd love your opinion on it. Like, the dyed-in-the-wool Islanders fans might not be, your target clients, but what that new stadium means to them, like builds that goodwill, and that goodwill, spreads in New York and then obviously across North America. How important has it been to really make that connection with the Islanders fans and, their gratefulness to now have a home?
Well, yeah, we love the Islanders. We love the Islanders fans. They are, I think, some of the loyalist fans that, we've ever seen. No matter what happens, they turn up. It's also, I mean, I live on the island. I live on Long Island, and for me to see the support for the team, across the board every day. My children's school, they had Spirit Week. Most of the kids in one of my son's class were wearing Islanders jerseys. It's really, I mean, there is so much support in Long Island for them. So it's incredible. And we just, we're there to support the fans and be part of the fan journey. We've just finished a series with some alumni called After the Island, which where we've interviewed the likes of Dennis Potvin and Aaron Asham and Bob Nystrom to talk about them and their journey post their professional career at the New York Islanders. And many have become entrepreneurs. Dennis Potvin's had a long career as a broadcaster. There's a lot of philanthropy there. So it's really great that we're able to partner with them and just show their journey, beyond the sport, and offer that content to to Islanders as well.
I mean, one of the things, with a naming rights partnership, it's not just about, getting the name on the stadium and the logo on the stadium and getting the report, counting the sports reports, how many times you've mentioned it. It really is about, activating the stadium and then leveraging that for other efforts. One of those efforts for you is the 43 Oak Foundation, a youth hockey program with the Islanders. Why is that important to UBS?
Yeah, so I think when we took a deep dive into ice hockey, obviously once we knew that we were going to enter a 20-year partnership with the New York Islanders, and through that deep dive we found out that ice hockey is the most expensive youth participation sport in the US. And then as a result of that, the diversity and inclusion around ice hockey is pretty low in comparison to other sports. So for us, it was really important to see where we can impact that. Where can we make a change? And we found 43 Oak Foundation, which is a really small grassroots organisation run by Sean Grevy, who has an absolutely tremendous commitment around increasing diversity and inclusion in the sport. He works with players from underserved communities to support them in many ways, whether that's transportation, ice time, kit, equipment, anything that they need. And we've been very open with our financial support that we have 43 Oak and the players direct that financial support in the way that's relevant to the players and the way that supports their individual needs. So UBS and the Islanders have partnered in our support. We have skills clinics that Islanders and Islanders alumni and our very own UBS hockey team run with the players. So we've had a clinic at the arena, actually at the ice at the arena, at the training facility, the New York Islanders training facility. And then also beyond that, it's really important for us that we're just not supporting the players with their, aspirations on the ice, that we're actually looking at how we support them off the ice. So we have a mentorship program where we'll sit with the players and work on interview skills. And we have a financial wellness team that's worked with the players and their families on how to navigate the college loan system, how to get a college loan, and things that are going to be really important, whether these players become professional athletes or not. And then the Islanders recently, the Islanders social media team last week actually held a session with the players where they looked at the players' social media presence and social profile and how, they would want to manage themselves, now and in the future, in terms of having, a really solid and strong and safe online presence.
I mean, you talked about it earlier about having that long-term vision and a long-term view as a business, but also having that from a sponsorship point of view, and committing to that type of program for 5 years allows allows the foundation to bed it down, to see the value and see those increases happen, but then also you will see those longer-term benefits. Those benefits might not come for 10, 15 years when you might luckily see one of these players in the NHL, but also the studies show if you're engaging younger athletes with the sport, they become a fan of the sport. So they might also, have that added benefit of a diverse player base, but also a diverse fan base. So it definitely helps on a couple of fronts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd love to see that. That's definitely a goal of ours, to have the on the ice and around the ice have a really inclusive fan base and player base.
Definitely. Well, I want to change gears. One of the other sports that you are partnered with at UBS is the very successful Mercedes F1 team and Lewis Hamilton. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you've partnered and when you started partnering with Mercedes?
Yeah, so UBS has been a partner with Mercedes for over a decade now. So we actually were one of their first partners when they re-entered the sport. And luckily for us, we have partnered with what is now the greatest Formula One team of all time, with the greatest driver of all time. So it's been an incredible journey to be on with Mercedes, one that we're very proud of, and one that is continuing to grow and emerge into new markets. The US, where I'm based, being particularly important for us.
I mean, it's a fascinating sport, one that it's a global property. The F1 circus comes to town and drops in. It comes to my hometown of Melbourne, and then you would have watched the races at Silverstone and all of these different venues. I think there'd be a lot of sponsorship executives wish they had a time machine and can go back 10 years and get into F1. Pre-Drive to Survive. You've been in the scene, while that explosion has happened. Like, what advantages have you had, being there early, working with Toto and the Mercedes team to say, hey, how can we help you? How do we get our benefit out of it? What are the best ways for, UBS to have the brand in the right position, but also make sure our partners and customers get the best experience? What's it been like going through that Netflix bump?
Yeah, well, I think we've definitely had a first mover advantage in terms of brand assets. So we've got a great position on the team uniform. We've had a lot of years to test ROI on different assets. There are many different opportunities, whether that's the uniform, the car, trackside branding. We've tested and learned all of them. We've been very careful about what we've retained and where we are now. It's a constant process of evaluation, and particularly as new races start. So we've got Vegas this year for the first time. We've just we're 2 years into Miami, and actually Austin had the largest largest audience that it's ever had last year. So we're constantly testing and learning that partnership and that experience, and it's an extremely nuanced sport. There aren't many other sports that go to so many countries, so many locations in such a short time. The way that you have the drivers, but then also you have the team. It's so international to see as well. It's got that just the flair and the global nature that I don't think any other sport has got. And for us as a global financial institution, it's extremely important. We have races in all of our key markets, in all of the key cities where we see clients. So it's been great for us.
I mean, again, that piece of long-term vision, long-term partnerships, what's it been like? I know when we're working with athletes, and, the more sessions, the more reps you get with them, the deeper you get to go, the more interesting it gets, the more familiarity it gets. You're doing that with, arguably, the greatest F1 driver in Lewis Hamilton. How has that relationship been? Because he's working with you, with the team. You're doing different things year on year. How has that relationship grown? Over the years.
Well, I think that we really want to be a cheerleader for Lewis and support Lewis, and we absolutely love what he's doing with Mission 44 and all of his commitments. His commitment around diversity and inclusion in the sport. He's also got a really big commitment around sustainability, which is really important for us. So anything that UBS can do to align with that, then we will. And we have opportunity to create content with the team. And we've really, over the last few years, wanted to help, get that message of diversity and inclusion out as much as possible. So we had a really, heartwarming piece where Lewis was back in the HQ, and he was dressed up as a mechanic, and no one knew who he was. And we had some kids from an inner city London school that came in, and got to meet him and understand what's possible for them, because very few individuals are going to become a Formula One driver, but there are a lot of roles for people, in the sport, whether it's a marketing role or, an engineering role, and like what's possible. And the sport isn't diverse across the board. So we really would love to, do what we can to shine a light on that effort. And then we recently sat down with Lewis in Austin and really took a deep dive into his philanthropy, into what the work that he's doing around his legacy, and what he's trying to achieve with Mission 44. So anything that we can do to support that, we will, and we're thrilled to be able to be there.
One thing I did want to ask, because you've been in F1 for a long while, and there has been this explosion, and now you've got every single race looking over its shoulder, competing with one another. I'm sure that's also happening with the sponsors. Like everyone walks into the paddock and looking what the sponsors are doing. How hard is it or how easy is it to go, this is what we want to do, this is what works. I'm not going to look at the big, bright, shiny thing that someone else is doing. I want to stay focused on what's working for us.
I mean, I think with Formula One, when you look at the sponsors, they're actually from many different sectors. So you've got a lot of sponsors are in the tech field. Obviously, there's a lot of financial institutions. There've been the crypto companies that are there or have come and gone. So I feel like there is a place for everyone in terms of their sector. So what we would do in terms of, as a wealth manager, in terms of the way that we would want to entertain and host clients, and the kind of the different attributes of the sponsorship are going to be different to how maybe a tech firm would look at it. So I think with every team, generally, like we've got category exclusivity. So we are the only financial services partner of Mercedes. So it tends to be actually good. We don't really run over each other very much. Every partner, in their own, is in their kind of lane where they're looking at the sponsorship from a very different point of view. I mean, I'm sure a lot of those tech sponsors are leveraging the engineers and the data systems much more than we are. So, yeah.
Terrific. One we did want to touch on that's not in the sports space is your partnership and your sponsorship of Art Basel. Do you want to sort of explain to listeners who might not know? And I'll put my hand up and say, I'm not an art aficionado. Sponsoring the arts, how is that different? Like, what does that offer UBS as a different point of view, different sector, different market than what sport offers?
Yes, I feel like art and culture and sports are actually quite closely aligned, because at the end of the day, we're just in the place where people are passionate. We're dealing with people's interests and people's passions, and people are extremely passionate about art. So we've been a partner with Art Basel for over 40 years. And then just over 20 years ago, Art Basel set up, which is, an area for me, Art Basel Miami Beach, which was actually at a time when Miami was definitely not the cultural hub that it is today. Miami's changed a lot over the last 20 years, and I feel that Art Basel has become a huge event on the global calendar, and it's also been a real marker for this change for Miami. I mean, Miami's now got, 10s, 20s of, world leading museums. It is a global cultural hub, and it just really wasn't. So I feel that Art Basel Miami Beach has been a real marker for culture and a real part of transformation of the city. And I sat in all the presentations with the mayor last year to celebrate 20 years, and many of Miami's great and good credit Art Basel Miami Beach with really changing the landscape for the city. And the other thing where it's an interesting fact, which kind of aligns with sports, but Art Basel Miami Beach is actually the second highest time that private jets fly in from anywhere after the Super Bowl. So that's my fact, tying it back to sports.
Oh, terrific! Yeah, those pictures of all the private planes landing around a Super Bowl, like it happens every single year. So that does give it perspective.
Yeah. That so many people come from all across the world, and then also again the arts give us another platform to support that diversity and inclusion and that sustainability messaging. So we had an exhibition at Art Basel last year, which was around reimagining new perspectives, which featured artists that have traditionally been underrepresented, and so many of them are global leading artists, but giving them that platform. And we had some, public talks, and we had a public exhibition, and all of those areas that are very supportive of our efforts as well.
Terrific. Well, Anneliese, I really do appreciate your time talking about all things UBS and how you're going about sponsoring the world of sport and the arts. I want to get to the Sports Geek Closing 5. Do you remember the first sports event you ever attended?
Can I answer this in a different way? Can I?
You certainly can.
My favorite. So can I just? I'd love to talk about the best event I've ever been to. And I will say I think the first sporting event I ever went to was Charlton Athletic versus Leeds, which I think they lost about 5-0. So that and that was in the glory days of Charlton Athletic as well. So it was only downhill from there. But I love to say my favourite event, and that was actually London 2012. And just anyone that gets any opportunity to go to the Olympic Games, it was absolutely the best experience of my entire life. And I signed up to all of the lotteries, and I actually went to the rowing. I went to beach volleyball, which was like just in front of all these incredible London landmarks. I went to the equestrian event where all the horses are doing their thing. It was just incredible. And then beyond all of that, I actually went to Super Saturday, which was the track finals. So I got to see Mo Farah, Jessica Ennis-Hill, Greg Rutherford all win their gold medals within, I think it was 40 minutes. And I got to see Usain Bolt. He was literally just in front of us, warming up, getting photos with the crowd, not really caring about anything, and then going off and, winning gold. And, 80,000 people with that environment. But everything, that was obviously incredible, once in a lifetime. But even if you can get to beach volleyball, go to beach volleyball. It was incredible. I know that obviously anyone that can get to an Olympics gets to an Olympics.
Yes, that's both one of my biggest memories and biggest regrets of Sydney 2000. My brother and I, big basketball fans, we put our names in the ballot. We went to Sydney for one day just for the basketball double sessions and had an absolute blast. But my only regret is that I didn't get tickets in the ballot to other things. But completely agree. An amazing experience, and also just the festival nature of everyone there, meeting people from around the world. In between the games, we became friends with these Americans, and then we went to the game and just absolutely had a ball. I did also want to have my own caveat to this one, knowing that UBS Arena is recently open. What was it like the first time you got to go to UBS Arena for a sports event?
It was insane. It was nuts. So, the Islander fans got there, I don't know how many hours before doors opened. And then they just all completely flooded in. And I was up on the walkway, just seeing everyone flooding in. People were crying, hugging, kissing the ground. It was really something. It was really, and then everyone had these, amazing flags. We handed them out. People could not believe it. They couldn't believe it. And I also got a real sense of, multi-generational families that they were getting to bring, like the grandparents were bringing the grandchildren, and it was really something.
Terrific. Do you have a favourite food or a go-to food or a favourite food memory at a sports event?
So I'm going to divert on this one as well.
That's fine. Like we're going off the board on every single one. That is fine by me.
So I don't love fast food, but I do love UBS Arena, and I might sound I'm being very biased here, but so in terms of the food, they really look at sourcing locally where possible, sustainably where possible. They've got relationships with a lot of local farms in upstate New York and the North Fork, and then they've got this menu by Giada De Laurentiis, who's a world famous chef. And then also Shaquille O'Neal has got his infamous chicken burgers in there as well. So I would shout out to UBS Arena. They are doing things very differently in terms of food in a kind of mass participation venue. So I wanted to kind of give it a plug here.
I wasn't expecting the words Shaquille O'Neal and chicken burger in this podcast, but I more than welcome it. So thank you very much. What's the first app you open in the morning?
Well, I wish it was some exercise app, but it's not. I think it's either my work app or Instagram. So.
Oh, terrific. Is there someone that you follow? It might be a colleague. It might be someone doing some killer things in the sponsorship space, or brand and marketing that the listeners should follow, and why?
Yeah, I definitely want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Constance Schwartz. So she's the CEO of Smack Entertainment, and I think she is an extremely influential woman in sports marketing who I respect and admire. I got the opportunity to have, a 2-hour meeting with her over a partnership. She is incredibly inspirational to me. She has paved her way from kind of almost like an administrative role in the NFL to represent some of the world's leading talent. She has, Snoop Dogg on her book. She's got Michael Strahan. She's got very many other artists. I think that she is maybe not as known as she should be. So I'd really like to give her a shout out here.
Terrific. And lastly, and you can answer this personally and then potentially look at it from a UBS sponsorship point of view, but what social media platform is your MVP?
Instagram.
And then from a UBS point of view, is it Instagram for UBS as well? Is in whether you're partnering with Mercedes or the Islanders, like getting some of that traction and cut through, it's still Instagram?
Yeah, for us, for the content that we produce, for content in arts and culture and in sports, I think Instagram is the platform for us. That's where we tend to get the most traction, and I think it's just the most authentic and aligned platform for our content. We tend to go. Our content's not like that traditional financial services brand approach. It's much more kind of fast-paced, dynamic, and on that more sports side, it looks slightly different. So I think Instagram's good for us.
Terrific. Well, Anneliese Mesilati, again, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I'm actually looking forward to, we're recording this before Seed Conference, and I'll actually meet up a couple of people from the Oakview group. So I look forward to talking to them, but potentially about UBS Arena, and then I will be in New York afterwards. So I might see if there's a way that I can go and check out the venue because it does sound exciting. Is there a way if people were to say, hey, listen to the podcast, I really do appreciate it, that they can reach out to you or connect with you? What's the best platform to do so? But hang on, with the full disclaimer, if anybody reaches out to you asking for sponsorship, please send them my way. I will block them personally. So if you are reaching out to Anneliese, do not do so asking for money. So I'll put that disclaimer.
I would just say people can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. That's probably best.
Terrific. And I will tell them, like as I do, like don't just hit the invite button, say, hey, Anneliese, I listened to the podcast so you know which ones you can accept.
Yeah,
and please,
exactly.
That offer is there. If anyone then hits you up for some money, please come back to me and I will go after them with a big cricket bat.
All right. Thank you. It's great to speak, Sean. Thank you. This is a really good conversation.
Thank you very much.
Looking to help your digital or sponsorship team? Book in for a Pick My Brain session with Sean Callanan to help your team level up. Book now at sportsgeekhq.com/pickmybrain.
Thanks again to Anneliese for sharing her knowledge and the chat. Really great to catch up. And please, if you like the episode, got some insights like I did from the episode with Anneliese, please connect with her on LinkedIn. Tell her that you listened to the episode so she can filter her LinkedIn invites. But please, please, please do not pitch her a sponsorship. If I do find that out, I will have to go all Liam Neeson and hunt you down if you do. So please don't do that. I've recorded this podcast chat with Anneliese before heading off to the US. I'm recording these intros just before I hop on the plane. So by the time this episode comes out, I'll be back and hopefully I'll have a plethora of podcast guests lined up, meeting up with a bunch of different people at Seat and in my travels. But I'm always happy to hear from podcast guests. If you've got someone that you think should be on the podcast, that I should have a chat to, that's doing great things, please reach out or put in your nomination. You go to sportsgeekhq.com/nominate, nominate a guest. The only criteria I have is that they work in sport and they're interesting. If they're not interesting, it's going to be a really short podcast, and we don't want that. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Do you get Sports Geek news? Sean Callanan analyzes the latest sports business articles for you weekly. Sign up at sportsgeekhq.com. Want to help drive more revenue from your digital efforts? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call.